Hey guys. Hello there. Okay. So please make sure that your cameras are on. All right, sorry. So, okay. So what we're going to be doing now is we're going to be working on the writing section, and we'll be looking at the second task that we have, which is the independent task. Now, again, the writing section is over 30, like all of the other sections. Remember that in this section, you will be asked to do 2 tasks here. And well, it lasts a total of 50 minutes. So the first integrated writing will be 20 minutes long, and then the independent writing, the second task will be 30 minutes long. And today we'll be looking at the second one that we have here. Right, so I don't know if you know this, if you're wondering what this means, integrated independent, basically the independent writing is gonna be you writing an essay based on a question they give you, but your own thing. So you're gonna tell your opinion about a topic. Whereas the integrated writing is gonna be you summarizing a certain material that they give you. So that's the difference. And again, we're gonna be working on the independent writing today. So, all right, let's get into it. Okay. Now here in this independent writing, you guys will be asked to write an essay. And basically what they will do is they will give you a question or a prompt, and in which they're gonna be usually asking about your opinion, your preferences, what you think about a certain topic. And I'm sorry? Okay. So that will be basically it. They will ask you a question, they will give you a question, you need to read it, and then you need to write an essay based on that. Now, the topics that you guys will be asked about are always kind of the same. So it's always something, first of all, that you can debate on. So it's gonna be kind of like a debatable topic. And second thing, it's probably gonna be on one of these areas. So it's either gonna be education or academic life. So maybe what you think of online classes, or what you think of, or whether you prefer traditional classes, or about, printed books versus ebooks, that's academic life. Sometimes you also have something about lifestyle and health. So maybe what you think or what your opinion is on like sleeping early versus sleeping late, or waking up early, waking up late, or working out, eating healthy, those kind of things. And you can also be asked something about work. So it could be maybe, I don't know, whether you prefer to work alone or with somebody else, whether you prefer to work in a company for your whole life or change companies. So it could be academic life, work life, lifestyle and health. And sometimes they also ask you something about technology, like whether your opinion is on, I don't know, social media, that kind of thing. Then you also have some questions about the environment. So, and sometimes you get some financial. So financial decisions. So do you like to save, I don't know, each month, or how do you spend your money, that kind of thing. So any questions so far about this, about the topics or the structure of the task? Basically, you get the question, you read it, and then you get 30 minutes to write the essay. No questions? All right. Now, as for the question that you're asked, it doesn't really matter what type of question you get, I would say, because no matter what type of question you get, you can always use the same template, you can always answer in the same way. There are different types. For example, here you have some examples. Like for example, you have the do you agree or disagree type. So do you agree or disagree with the following statement? And you can have something like, online classes are better than traditional, maybe. So you need to say whether you agree, and then you mean that you prefer online classes over traditional classes, or if you disagree, then you agree that you prefer traditional classes over online ones. Or you can have something like, some people prefer to have online classes, others prefer traditional classroom learning. What do you prefer? Or which of the following do you think is most important for a good education? Online classes or traditional classroom learning? So it doesn't really matter, as you can see, what type of question you get, because it's either way, it's going to be the same thing. They're going to be asking you all the same thing. So is this okay so far? Does it make sense? Okay. Now I'm going to give you, yes, Jaya?
I don't really understand these types of questions. I know that there is an independent writing about the essay, but I thought that it will say like the topic, environmental disaster or something like that. So this is the independent essay that we are going to do about these questions, right?
Yes, exactly. So the topics that I meant, so these are the topics on which the questions are about. And yes, you will get a question, something like this, and your essay needs to be answering this question, basically. So your essay needs to support your answer. If you say, I prefer to have online classes, in your essay, you need to explain why, basically. So you will get one of these questions, and you need to write an essay answering them.
Okay, and the templates that you mentioned, they are going to be included in this class, or we search it in our own?
No, I will be giving you guys a template so that you can use.
Thank you.
Okay. So, all right, now I'm gonna give you some tips beforehand, but then I'll give you more as we go. Hold on, I think I'm gonna go get my headphones because. Okay, sorry. So they're working on a construction near home. So, all right. So what I was saying about the tips. So I'll be giving you some beforehand. Now, the first one is when you're answering this question, when you're writing your essay, you need to make sure that you have your position and that it's a strong one. So I'm going to use this one here. So please, when you're deciding what you're going to write about, so for example, if you're going to go for online classes, that's everything that you need to talk about. This isn't a comparing or contrasting type of essay. So you don't really have to be like, all right, so I prefer online classes in some cases, but I do also believe that traditional classroom learning is a good option in some other cases. So basically what I mean is try to make your position as strong as possible. So if you're going to choose one, you actually need to choose it, and you cannot really try to, contradict what you're saying. So everything needs to support your decision. All right, you don't have to compare and contrast your options. You don't have to talk about the advantages or disadvantages of each one of them. You just need to focus on one of them. So if you're saying online classes, you just need to tell me why online classes are better than traditional classroom learning. Now, the next thing I could say is that you don't necessarily have to be 100% honest with your response, and not everything that you write needs to be true. So what I mean by this is that if you want to make something up, if you want to, I don't know, make up facts or make up, I don't know, a research that has never, has never taken place, that it's more than okay to do it. So you can say something, for example, I don't know, you can say, according to the New York Times, students who have traditional classroom learning
are more likely to pay more attention or pay more attention during class. You can say that even if it's not true, you can make it up. They're not going to check the data that you're using. So you can basically say anything you want. It's not that much about what you say, but it's more about how you explain it and how you support it. Okay, so that's what I mean with don't be 100% honest. And also try to choose the one that you think is easier to write about. Because, you know, sometimes you have these beliefs or, you know, opinions that are really somewhat difficult to support. So for example, if you talk about religion, then it will be kind of hard to, you know, explain why or how religion works, you know. So always try to go for the easier one that you consider would be the easiest option. So yes, even if it's not exactly what you deep down think. Now, I already said this, don't compare and contrast your options. Try to do an outline of your essay before you actually get to write it. We're gonna do that now. If we're gonna try to write an essay, so we're gonna do an outline first. And this is basically like a brainstorming that you guys do. So you're just gonna think about what you're gonna write and how you're gonna write it before you do it. And even though some people may say that it's gonna take up your time, I would say that it's actually gonna make it easier for you. Because if you just start writing and you have no idea what you're gonna say next, then maybe you can get stuck. It's easier to get stuck, to run out of ideas, maybe be redundant, to be repetitive during the essay. So it is quite important that you guys outline your essay. Now, grammar is actually one of the things that they look at the most, of course, in the writing part. So you do need to check out some grammar rules before. It will be great if you can check out some punctuation rules, for example. If you can check out some, I don't know, some transitions, some, and the grammar that you think you're missing, right? So for example, if you believe that you're not so good with the third conditional, try to check it and try to use it too. So I would say a big part of this essay is about showing, demonstrating that you have that advanced level, right? So that you have achieved that you have seen that specific grammar. So try to use everything you know. And if you feel like you don't know something yet, then try to check it before you go and take the test. Now, what else could I say? The conclusion and the introduction are never going to be as important as the body paragraphs, as the essay itself. So I think a mistake that most people make here is thinking that this is kind of a creative essay and you need to be super interesting and, I don't know, fun and have this big hook and try to catch the reader's attention. So that's not really the way to do it. This is not a creative essay. This is just an academic essay in which you're trying to show that you know how to communicate an idea, how to express yourself in English. So if it's boring, then that's okay. You know, you don't have to talk about super interesting things. It could be something like, I don't know, how your grandma makes cookies, and that's totally okay. It doesn't have to be that interesting. It just has to be, you know, well written. Now, please don't count the words. And I'm sure you guys are going to ask me how many words should I write. So according to the TOEFL, you're supposed to write, the ideal number of words would be from 250 to 300. So that would be like the ideal number of words. But of course, you can have more, you can have less. There's no word limit, word requirement. And to be honest, I don't think that the number of words you write is like a great indicator of how good your essay is. So you can have a long essay and say nothing, or you can have a somewhat short one, but have a good one. So don't worry too much. If you want to really quantify what you're writing, maybe you can think of writing at least 5 paragraphs and make them at least 4 or 5 lines each. Okay, so that will be a good amount. And that will be like 250 to 300 words. So that's one way to see it. Any questions so far about those tips, about what I just said? I can take this off.
Everything okay? All right. Now, if you're wondering how they score your essay, the rubric they use is quite similar to the one they use in the speaking. So some of you guys have already seen the speaking section, and they score it based on the same criteria. So they're looking at content, which is basically what you're saying. So what you say and basically how you justify your position. So how convincing your arguments are, how clear it is, how concise, how coherent, whether you're being repetitive, whether you're not really answering the question directly. If you're going somewhere else and you're not really talking about the topic, then that's probably going to be bad for the content part. Now they look at organization, development, which basically means how organized everything looks. So this is about using transitions, separating your ideas in paragraphs, not having just one paragraph. Format. It's about all those things, how organized it looks. And finally, the hardest one to achieve would be language used, which refers to basically, I would say grammar, most of it, vocabulary and word choice. So how appropriate the words you're using are, how extensive your vocabulary looks, how many grammar structures you're using, whether you're making any grammar mistakes or not. So that's why it's important to show everything you know. So if you know how to use different tenses, if you feel confident with using them, then try to use more than just the simple present. If you know that you know how to use different conditionals, then try to use them here. So try to create some complex grammar structures if you know how to use them. If you don't feel so confident yet, you haven't seen them yet, then you just need to stick to what you know, to what you have. You need to just use the tools that you have. And if you don't know something, then obviously try not to use it. It's better not to say something than making a grammar mistake in there, So that would be it. That's how your essay is scored. And by the way, this is read by first an e-rater who's gonna kind of scan your essay looking for format errors, for grammar mistakes, for spelling, for typos, for transition words, counting the number of words that you've written. So that's what the e-rater is gonna do. And then a human rater is gonna check it and actually read your essay in and mostly look at content. So yeah, that's how it's gonna be scored. Now, is it okay now? Okay. Now, okay, so, all right. Later, I'll tell you what grammar you can use or what grammar you can review that would be good if you can use in your essay. But for now, let's try to do it. Let's try to write an essay, look at an example. And before we do that, about the time, so I'm gonna say what I already said for the other writing part. Just make sure that you have an essay. Okay, some people worry too much about writing the first part and having like a perfect intro and a perfect first paragraph. And they end up like having nothing at the end of the day, right? It's not gonna be an essay. So just make sure that you write as fast as you can at in the first draft. So try to do like different drafts. So you have your first draft, just make sure that you have your essay, that you have everything that you want to say, and then you can go back and make it better. Don't waste too much time on the intro or the conclusion. They're not supposed to be that complicated. Focus more on the body paragraphs, and always make sure that you leave some time to check and proofread and see that everything's in order. Remember, I would say 30 minutes is more than enough in this case. In the other writing, maybe 20 is not that much, but I would say that 30 is a good number here. So you have enough time. You have enough time to write the essay, check it, and submit it. Okay, so any questions before we look at the example? Yes, right?
I was thinking of taking the test in an education center, not the online test. So the timing is the same.
Yes, it's exactly the same.
And when I finish, do I pass to the next section, or do they take my essay first and check it, and then I pass to the next section?
I mean, you're gonna write your essay on a computer, you're gonna type it. So you just submit it and then you move on to the next one.
Okay, thank you.
When you take it at a test center, even though it's gonna be, you're gonna be there, you know, it's not gonna be at home. Anyhow, it's gonna be on a computer. So you're gonna have to type your essay and then submit it. Okay. Any other question? No? Okay. So then let's take a look at the example. We're gonna try and write an essay. So here's the task we're gonna, or the question we're gonna be answering. Could anybody please read it? Will anyone read this for me?
May I come?
Yes, of course.
Okay. Do you agree or disagree with the following statement? Sometimes it is better to be dishonest with people than to always tell them the truth. There's specific reasons and details to support your answer.
Okay, thank you so much. So, okay, guys, so we're gonna outline our essay. We're gonna do the brainstorming and think about what we're gonna write. So let's do that. It shouldn't take you more than 3 minutes, by the way. Maybe right now, because we're gonna be, you know, explaining and everything, it could take us longer, but it isn't supposed to be that that complete in that sense. So, okay, so the first thing we do is, of course, we need to try and think about what we're gonna say, what position we're gonna take. So what would you guys say? What is easier to write about? Being dishonest sometimes or always telling the truth? Which option would you go for? What do y'all think?
Being dishonest for me.
Okay, so let's write about it. Being dishonest sometimes. Okay, so once you're done, you have decided your position, of course, you need to try and think why. So now here's the thing. As you can see in the question, you don't really have you know, some like specifics about what you need to write or how many reasons you should give or any. They just say use specific reasons and details to support your answer. They don't say something like use or give 2 reasons or 3 or 4. So that's a really good thing because you can really do whatever you want. So a normal essay would have from 2 to 3 reasons. Okay, you could have 2 to 3, and according to that, you can have 5 or 6 paragraphs. If you ask me what's better, I would say it is better to write only 2 reasons. And this is because, you know, if you just focus on 2 ideas, it's easier. I mean, it is easier to just explain them, and it's safer too because you're more likely going to make it on time than if you're writing 3. You can have the more elaborated, maybe longer paragraphs, and it's also easier avoiding being repetitive, you know, because if you try to think of 3, maybe you're just going to end up saying the same thing. So to make it more concise, to make it easier and to go for the safer strategy, I would suggest you guys just go for 2 reasons And of course, you can explain them a bit more. You can give a longer example and everything else. So I would say that's the better choice. Now, it's going to depend on you. So it's completely up to you. If you feel that, I don't know, that when you write two, it's just too little, that you're not so good at explaining them, you're just kind of briefly referring to them, then maybe you can go for 3. But generally, I would say writing 2 is better. So that's what we're going to do now. Okay, we're going to think of 2 reasons. Remember, they don't ask you for a specific number, but writing 1 reason would be not enough. So that 1 reason is not an S. 2 reasons, that's okay for an S. And 3, it's okay too. More than that, I would say it's almost impossible. You don't have enough time to write more than that. So let's try to think of 2 reasons. Can anyone give me one? Why is being dishonest better than always telling the truth? Can anyone think of one reason why? Yes, Javier, go ahead.
One reason can be, for example, you don't hurt people's feelings that easily.
Okay, perfect. I like that. So you don't hurt people's feelings. Okay, that's nice. Okay. What about another one? Why else is being dishonest sometimes the better option?
Teacher,
Yes.
if we are dishonest, maybe we can get many things.
Okay, you can get many things for yourself.
Yeah.
Okay, so, all right, I think I know what you mean. Like, yeah, sometimes by being dishonest, you can obtain things. It's easier for you to get things or the things that you want. Okay. Now I like that your ideas are different from each other, because if you think about it, the first one is about other people, about hurting other people's feelings. So you're kind of being empathetic here. And the second one is a bit more selfish, we could say, but it's totally okay. And to get things for yourself. So that's nice. Make sure that when you're thinking of your ideas, that they are different from each other. So if here you're saying you don't hurt people's feelings, then the other one needs to be different, right? You cannot say something like, and I don't know, maybe you help other people. Maybe you avoid, yeah, maybe something like that. So it should be something different. So you can get things for yourself. All right. Now the second thing that you guys need to think about is some examples that you're gonna use to justify or to prove those ideas. So remember that an example is just anything that's more specific, that obviously relates to what you're saying. So if you're saying you don't hurt people's feelings, then you can tell me a story about how, I don't know, there was this time when you were with a friend, you didn't want to hurt her feelings, so you lied to her about how he looked, or I don't know, how she looked on her dress. So you can tell a story like that, or you can just be a bit more specific, like maybe give examples about what feelings you could hurt, or I don't know, talk about family or something. So try to think of something a bit more specific to support this idea. So can anyone think of an example for the first one? How is it that you don't hurt people's feelings? Yes, Han?
When they ask you about if they are pretty of their appearance, so maybe we can make a slip of tongue in there. So maybe the appearance of other people.
Okay, lie about the appearance of other people. All right. Okay, so that's like a general example, right? So in general, you could lie about the appearance of somebody and in order not to hurt them. You could also try to tell a story too, like there was this day when this person approached me and she asked me how they looked, and both of them are fine. What I would say is, since you have two reasons, two examples, if I were you, I would try to include at least one personal example in which you tell a story like the one that I was telling you about. Because if you notice, it gives you the chance to use different tenses and different grammar, right? You could say, so I lied to her, we were doing this, and I lied to her, and she was asking me this. And you can maybe use something like, so if I hadn't lied to this person, then she would have, I don't know, she would have gotten hurt. So I'm using different tenses. So try to maybe think of one personal, and the other one could be general, it could be a fact. So you can say something like, it's been proven that people prefer to hear lies rather than the truth when, I don't know, and you can try to make something up there. But good. And what about another example for this idea here of getting things? Maybe Amilcar, what would you say? Can you give me an example?
For example, if I would like to go to a party and I'd say to my parents, maybe I'm going to go to study or do homework.
Okay. Okay, that's true. All right. So if you want to get something from your parents, or if you want to get them to let you go somewhere, maybe you can lie about where you're going in order to get them to give you permission. All right. Okay, then that's perfect. So now that we thought of our two ideas and our two examples, now we can write yes. Any questions so far? Okay, so here's a template that I got for you guys. Now we're gonna start. Okay, well, first of all, you're more than welcome to change this template. I'm actually gonna give you some words myself that you can use to create your own one. To be honest, I would say that the best thing you guys can do if you want to use a template is kind of create your own. Obviously, you can base your template on this or something else that you found, but try to have your own words, something that you like, that you feel comfortable with, so that you will remember when you're in your test. Okay, so you can change the words. Instead of saying to start, you can say for starters, you can start to, I don't know, first, or to begin with, or instead of furthermore, you can change the word and say also, besides, or on top of that. So it doesn't matter what words you use. The only thing I'm going to ask you is to keep the structure of the template. So you always need to have an introduction. You need to have the first paragraph or the first body paragraph, the second one, and the conclusion. And I'm also going to be telling you what to write in each sentence. So try to keep that as well. Now for the introduction, the two basic things that you need in the intro is, well, obviously you need to answer the question directly. And this is going to be like stating your position. So you need to state what you think or what you believe or what your answer to this question is, right? Directly, as direct as you can be. And the second thing that you need in your intro is a transitional phrase. And in the transitional phrase, you're going to say something like, for the reasons that I will be exploring in the following essay. So if you notice, I'm not saying that you need to summarize your reasons. Please don't ever summarize your reasons in the intro. First of all, because you don't need to, it's going to be a waste of time. And second, because you're going to explain them anyhow. You're going to explain them in the body paragraphs, and you will summarize it in a conclusion. You cannot do anything else in the conclusion. So if you also summarize the reasons here, like, I don't know, the way I see it, I believe that it's better to be dishonest sometimes, since, I don't know, you don't hurt other people's feelings and you can get things for yourself. Don't do that, because then it's going to be repetitive. You're going to run out of words to use, and you're going to do that anyhow in the conclusion. So you just need to have a transitional phrase, something like this, that's acknowledging that you have some reasons to explain. So those are the two basic things, all right? However, once you're done with your essay, you write everything that you need to write. You write the intro, you write your body paragraphs and the conclusion. If you have extra time and you want to make it better, then you can go back and add 2 more things. So you can have, well, it will be like a bit of context. So it's gonna be the first sentence in which you're gonna talk about the topic in general. And then you can raise a question, which basically means paraphrase the question that you have. And then you have the other 2 elements that we already talked. Okay, so we're gonna see how this works. Now, the first thing, when I say give context, you need to think of what the topic in general here is. So if you had to maybe think of a title or what we were saying, right? Like the topics, education or environment or environmental disasters, I don't know. So what would you guys say the topic here is of this question or of this essay? What's this about? Anyone? Yes, Helen?
I think that the topic is about honesty, if it's better to be dishonest or to be honest.
Perfect. There you go. Honesty. That's the topic. Now, the positions or the options would be being dishonest, being honest, doesn't matter. In general, in one word, it would be honest. Okay. So what you need to do is in the first sentence, say something about honesty, something that's a fact, something that maybe everybody knows, that has nothing to do and it's not related to your reasons. Yes, Harry, do you want to say something? Okay. So try to, yes, Camila?
Yes, I have a question. In the context, we talk about the topic, right?
Yes, you talk about it.
And we explain it and develop in that context, right?
Yes, in one sentence, you just need to say something about the topic.
Only one sentence.
Only one sentence, and something that's not related to your reasons. So you don't have to talk about hurting other people or getting things for yourself. And you don't have to mention your position yet. So you don't have to tell me that you believe that honesty is, you should always be honest. You just need to say something about honest or explain why it's important. You know, why you should care enough to write an essay. So maybe, let me give you some examples. You could say, I mean, the classic thing would be to say something like, honesty is of paramount importance when or at or whatever it is, you know, and you explain something like, honesty is of paramount importance when educating kids, maybe, or for everybody's education or something like that. But try to do something different. That's like your emergency plan. So you could say maybe honesty is, I don't know, is one of the most common values taught at home, or honesty is at the core of every religion, from Christianism to Buddhism, you could say. Or honesty, I don't know, something like that. You know, for example, if it's about working, do you prefer to work alone or work with someone else? You could say something like, we have spent a third of our lives working. Or if it's about traveling, do you prefer to travel alone or with someone else? You could say, traveling has become one of the most, or maybe not just one of the most, traveling has become easier as time goes by, or something like that. Okay, so just try to say something about the topic that it's not related to what you're gonna say later.
Something more general.
Yes,
right?
exactly. Something general. If you know the definition, you can try to use it too.
Okay.
If you know it, but if not, just try to say something general. So what can you guys think of Can anyone think of a sentence? Maybe Valeria, or okay. Ian, do you have something in mind?
Honesty can define a human's moral.
Okay. A human. Okay, maybe morality or moral.
Morality or moral, I think it's the same.
Okay, so let's do that. Honesty can define a human's moral. All right. Okay, so that's nice, pretty general. Now, the next thing you can do is paraphrase the question that you have here. So you can always copy and paste. You can always say whether being dishonest with people sometimes is better than to always tell them the truth. However, it might be a debatable topic. So in that case, you're just copying and pasting, right? You're just saying it in the exact same words. So is it better to be dishonest? Whether it's better to be dishonest than to tell the truth might be a debatable topic. But try not to do that. Try not to copy and paste, because remember that vocabulary is part of the rubric too. So try to change the words a bit or paraphrase. So you need to use a question word here. Even though you're paraphrasing the question, it's not going to be a question itself. So you don't have to have a question mark. It doesn't have to have an auxiliary or anything. It's a sentence that's paraphrasing the question. So I'm going to give you some examples. So for example, you could say, to what extent, I don't know, this value is important or is significant maybe. However, might be a debatable topic. Right? Or you could say something like, when we are allowed to tell a lie, however, might be a debatable topic. Or if we are allowed to tell a lie from time to time, however, might be a debatable topic. Or in which occasions we can be dishonest, however, might be a debatable topic. Something like that. So it has a question word like when, to what extent, how honest we should be, however, might be a debatable topic. So you're paraphrasing the question, and it's not a question, right? So I'm not saying, when are we allowed to tell a lie? No, it's a sentence. When we are allowed to tell a lie, or to what extent this value is. So if you want to check some grammar, you can check this out. Embedded questions, because this is what this is, okay? It's a question inside a sentence. So if you're not so sure how this works, you can check this grammar. So does it make sense? Do you know what I mean here? Just need to think of what the question is asking. The question is asking how honest you should be, right? So how honest you should be, however, might be a debatable topic. Or whether you can lie sometimes. So try to think of what the question is asking. And you can change this phrase too if you don't like it. By the way, here are some useful phrases. So for example, you could say, I don't know, it's a heated discussion or a heated debate. I also like that one. Or a controversial issue. Okay, so I'm gonna send you this presentation so that you have these phrases. So, but try to say something like that. So what can you guys say? Maybe Valeria now. So what would you say? Can you think of a sentence?
Sorry, teacher.
So what would you say there? How would you paraphrase this question that we have?
Okay. Mm, maybe I wonder people. I can say it, one sentence before, however.
Yes, however, might be a debatable topic. It's going to be part of the sentence. You just need to introduce the question there. So how honest we should be, however, is a debatable topic. It's something that you can debate on. You know?
Yes,
So
in this part, I can use embedded questions
yes,
for this exercise. Ah, okay.
yes, you do have to use an embedded question. It's a question inside a sentence. What this means is basically is like, okay, how honest we should be is a debatable topic. And this, however, is something like saying, but how honest we should be is a debatable topic, just in like different words, you know? So what would you say?
Okay, in this case, I can use, I wonder why people always prefer telling the truth.
Okay, I mean, you could say that without the I wonder, right? So just why people always prefer telling the truth, however, it might be a debatable topic. So you're kind of questioning this, you know, like why do always people prefer telling the truth, right? What do they always prefer telling the truth? So you're kind of questioning that, but in a sentence. So you don't need the I wonder anymore. No?
Okay, teacher.
So why people always prefer telling the truth, however, might be a debatable topic. That's good, but I'm not sure if this is paraphrasing the question correctly, because that's not the question, right? The question isn't asking about why people prefer to tell the truth. The question is whether it's better to tell the truth or not. So in basic words, you could say whether it's better to tell the truth, however, might be a debatable topic. So, but try to say something different. That's what I mean. You can say something, whether being, I don't know, straightforward, maybe you could say, is always the right way, maybe. However, might be a debatable topic. So whether being honest is always the right thing to do, or the best option, or better than lying, however, might be a debatable topic. Is this okay?
Yes.
Okay, so try to think of the question. Straightforward basically means honest. So, okay, then when you're done with that, you raise the question, then you need to answer it. So you need to answer the question as directly as possible. It's quite important that this is clear for the reader, because it needs to be clear. The reader needs to know in your intro what you mean, what your answer is. So it needs to be as clear as possible. So the way I see it, and then you tell me, you answer this question, right? The way I see it, you should always be 100% honest, no matter what. Or in this case, what we said, it's okay to be dishonest sometimes. So the way I see it, it's acceptable to sometimes lie. Okay, you can say something like that. So what would you say, Camila?
I will say that it's okay sometimes to be dishonest for some reasons, I think.
Okay. So the way I see it, it's okay to be dishonest sometimes for two, in this case, two reasons that I will be exploring in the following. Okay, so that's it. Okay, those are the things that you can do here. I mean, that's what you can have in the intro. Try to look for different words. Try to think of synonyms, like for honesty, dishonesty, words like okay. Maybe instead of okay, you could say acceptable or permitted, or yeah, something like
Fine.
that. Fine, yes, fine is a synonym of okay, but it's still not that formal. Try to look for something a bit more formal. Okay, let's go with fine for now. But in general, try to look for some other words for good and bad too, you know, good and bad, or important, which is used, or the quantifiers too, like a lot. Try to change that for several, maybe instead of a lot. Yes, Hein?
Maybe we can change the fine with better, because it sounds better. It is better to be dishonest sometimes.
Okay. Yes, of course, it's better to be dishonest. Okay. So, all right, so that's the introduction. Any questions so far?
I have a question with how to paraphrase the question.
Yes.
I cannot understand how we can not do the same.
I mean, if you want to say the exact same thing in the exact same words, and if it's a yes, no question, so that's why it's important to check that part. So if it's a yes, no question, like, is it better to be dishonest sometimes than to always tell them the truth? Paraphrasing it, we just, instead of is it, since it's a yes, no question, you would have to use the word whether, right? So which means if. So if it's better to be dishonest sometimes, so if it's better to be dishonest sometimes, might be a debatable topic. So it's something that we're gonna try to answer here, right? So in the same words, it will be whether it's better to be okay. So you just need to do that, but try to paraphrase it. So use different words. So instead of saying dishonest, you can say maybe lie, or instead of saying better, you can say acceptable, or instead of saying, I don't know, sometimes, so from time to time. So you just need to try to change the words or try to change the question too. So when we are allowed to be dishonest might be a debatable topic, or how honest we are supposed to be might be a debatable topic. So it's important that if you're wondering how the grammar is, then try to check those embedded questions, because this isn't a question itself, it's a sentence that has a question inside. So check that grammar and it's gonna be clear. Okay. But in I don't know, in other words, you just need to paraphrase these questions. So say it in different words.
Okay, thank you.
Okay. Any other question? All right. Now in the body paragraphs, which are these ones here, the ones where you explain your reasons, the basic things you need is, well, first thing your reason, obviously, or your argument, and then your example, of course. However, again, you know, if you have extra time, you can go back and add 2 more things. So what we're gonna add is reason, then you're gonna have like explanatory sentence. You're gonna explain a bit more, then you're gonna give the example, and then you have like a closing idea, which is kind of like a short conclusion for the paragraph. So first, you're gonna explain your reason, something like to start, I don't know. When you are, instead of saying you, okay, so another thing about the pronouns that you're using. So you can use you know, like to talk about generally speaking, like when you are honest, you may hurt some people's feelings. You can use you Or if you want to be a bit more formal, you can use the pronoun one. So you can say when one is honest, and you can use they, right? So when one is honest, I don't know, people don't get hurt. Okay, so you can, it's up to you, the one that you feel more confident with. You do need to practice a bit if you want to use one, so that you don't get mixed up the day of your test. But I would say that you don't necessarily have to be that formal. So it's okay if you use you, but this is like something extra that you can do, you know? So you can explain your reason. So I don't know, when you are, or by being dishonest, sometimes you may help avoid hurting other people's feelings. So that's your reason, right? Then you can explain it a bit more. So here you can tell me why or how you do that. So you can say something like, you do this by telling them what they need to hear. Or you can also give a fact. You can say, as a matter of fact, I don't know, according to this research, people prefer to hear lies rather than the truth when it has to do with, I don't know, with this or that. And then you give your example. So you can say, for instance, when I was at this party, I don't know, 10 years ago, this friend approached me and she asked me how she looked. And I said that she looked okay, even though I didn't think so. I don't know, with trying not to hurt her so that she could have a good time at the party. Okay, so you just explain the example. And then you have your closing idea, which would be like a short conclusion. You could say something like, that's why, and then you go back, right? So that's why sometimes it will be better to tell a lie if that's gonna help, I don't know, that's gonna help somebody else. Or you can also have this third conditional. If it's like, if it's your example was in the past. So if you're saying, I don't know, if you're telling this story about how you lied to your friend, you can say something like, hadn't I lied to her that day, maybe she wouldn't have had such a good time and I would have hurt her feelings. Okay, so you can use that third conditional, which is good for grammar, in case your example is in the past. So we're not gonna write this today because I don't know if we have enough time, but we will continue next class and we will try to write that down and explain each part in depth, you know? So, okay. Do you have any questions so far? As I was saying, the body paragraphs, we're gonna continue next class and the conclusion too. And then I'll give you more tips on how to make it better and some things to avoid, some things to use, some phrases to use, or grammar to use. We're gonna be looking at that next class. But do you have any questions so far? Or comments or anything to say? Is it okay? For now, just as long as you get the introduction, that's okay. I know that I didn't quite explain the body paragraphs, but we'll continue with that next class. So as long as you get the intro and the task, that will be okay. Do you have any questions about that?
I have a question, teacher.
Yes, Valeria?
There is can you go to the template, please?
Of course.
When it says explanatory sentence, it's something similar like the introduction, right? When you have to write a sentence and then like try to support that sentence, but saying something similar but not the same thing. It's the same, like when you say explanatory sentence.
Like in the intro? Honestly, no. In the intro, you're not explaining anything yet. In the intro, you're just so basically answering the question and saying that you will explain it later, but you're not explaining anything in the introduction yet. Now here you will explain. So what I mean with explanatory sentence is basically explain why or how something happens. So for example, if you're saying, your argument is that when you're, I don't know, if you're dishonest, you don't hurt people's feelings. So that's your reason. When I say explanatory sentence, you can explain a bit more how that happens or why it happens. So you can tell me, I don't know, why people prefer to hear lies or why people get hurt when they hear the truth. Something like that. Or you could also give a fact. That's why I put this. So you can support your idea with something that somebody else said or something that, or maybe a saying too, if you can use a saying, an expression, something like that. So you can say the example I gave about you reading this newspaper, you could say, I don't know, there's this research or there has been, or maybe just cite something, you know, like according to this magazine, people who lie or people who, I don't know, who hear lies tend to be twice as happy as people who don't, okay? Or I don't know, lies make somebody else feel better about themselves. So you can just say something else, something different, not necessarily the same that you already say, but something different that's explaining a bit more your reason. So it needs to be something that supports that idea. So it could be a fact, it could be a saying. If you know an expression that has to do with what you're saying, you can use it too. Or it could just be an explanation on why. So you could say, this is because people tend to be insecure about themselves. So they would rather hear a lie than, I don't know, than facing the fact or than facing their insecurities. Okay, so I'm just saying something that obviously has to do with what I'm saying here. You know what I mean?
Okay. Yeah, thank you.
Okay. Any other question?
And that part doesn't have connection with the example that we gave later.
The example needs to have a connection. The example needs to be supporting even more what you're already saying. So everything's going to be connected. You know, you cannot introduce a different argument, a different idea here. If you're talking about other people's feelings, then that needs to be it. You cannot start talking about getting things for yourself, for example. So your example needs to illustrate that. Your example needs to be about how you can, I don't know, like to maybe this specific person, like family or friends, about this specific thing, maybe about appearances, in order not to hurt their feelings. So you can tell a story and say, so my personal experience plainly illustrates this reality. And then you can say, in my birthday or in my 21st birthday party, my friend, I don't know, didn't, or was going through some stuff in obviously formal words. So my was going through some bad experiences, and she was a bit insecure about herself. And when she asked me how she looked, I decided it was better to lie to her, even though I wasn't being completely honest about what I said. So you're just explaining that. So I said that she looked okay. And then I noticed that her self-esteem was better, or blah, blah, blah. You're just going to explain a bit more with the example what you mean here. So how you're avoiding hurting other people's feelings with the example. Okay.
Okay, thank you.
Any other question? Okay. Well then, guys, please don't forget the daily survey, and we'll continue where we're wrapping it up next class, this Thursday.
Bye, teacher.
Bye-bye, guys.
Bye, teacher.
Bye. Take care.
Bye, teacher.
Bye.
Bye.